Flyers pregame show on the Flyers Broadcast Network. Here's Jason Martinez, Brian Smith, and Chris Terrian.
That's right. It's time for Philadelphia Flyers hockey as the Flyers return home. How about a 4-game homestand after a perfect 3-0 on the road trip? 4 straight wins for the Flyers going back to the Montreal game. And Bundy, let's start here tonight because Flyers are once again going 11-7 tonight. And while they've gotten away with being able to do that, at some point you got to get back to a 12-6, don't you?
That's the formula for sure. I mean, there's nobody, and I even know from the players' perspective that they don't really want to do that either. So, I mean, you have to be creative in certain situations, and you have to let the flow of your numbers and the players available to your lineup kind of dictate what happens. But yeah, I don't like 7 defensemen. I've told you before many times, it breaks up the flow. They've gotten away with it, I think, at times, but it more or less just ticks off the guys in the lineup because it just breaks up a lot of the flow that you want to find as a player. Clearly, Torts doesn't care about that, and we'll go with what's worked so far, and it has. So there's nothing to complain about. But if you're asking me just in terms of flow of the game, I don't like it. It's disruptive and it's hard. Right, yeah, exactly.
And I guess, too, it's a matter of I don't know if it's a matter of something they're going to do forever, but right now everybody's healthy again. That's actually a bit of a curse in disguise, if you will. It's certainly a good problem to have, but now that everybody's healthy again, it seems like that's the way that it lends themselves to getting the most guys in until they either have another injury, which you never hope for, or they make a move. They send somebody down to Lehigh Valley or something like that, or whatever. It's going to break eventually, but for right now, it's I guess it's just managing the situation.
That's exactly right. And you have to deal with what you got to deal with. And again, you get into the meat and potatoes of the season, and I think sometimes you can find yourself where you have to have a lineup that maybe doesn't fit the way you want it. But at the same time, things are working out for you, so you can live with the situation that's placed you at hand. I'm just saying, from the 12-6, I mean, you can tell that the even numbers on it just makes things a lot easier. The other thing too is the human nature part kicks in, and you end up feeling bad for the guy that's not getting as much ice time, and it's really weird that things happen that way. But that's what it is, because I remember we've had 7D. I probably had it maybe 40 times in my career. That's not a lot over what you think it is, but that's what you're thinking. Like, there's a guy that is the outside guy, and you're thinking to yourself, man, I really want to get that guy on the ice, but that's not what you should be thinking about.
It's like the third wheel on a date. You're like, oh, man. I thought it said that about when you carry 3 goalies in practice. Like, both of the top two guys need their work, but the third guy's standing there, and the other guys are like, I feel kind of bad. He's just kind of standing there. But you're like, I need my work, but so it's just an uncomfortable feeling. This game tonight, you're going to feature Sean Couturier drawing back in and Jamie Drysdale. Both missed the last 2 games, Couturier with an injury and Drysdale with the illness. But to get both guys back, Bundy, certainly gives you the structure and kind of what you're moving forward with, because both guys are equally as important, one on the front and one on the back end.
Absolutely, and it doesn't go or doesn't get lost on how well guys stepped up in those games without those 2 players. I mean, those are 2 difficult games, both at Winnipeg and then St. Louis, who was reeling and needed the 2 points, and the Flyers found a way to dig it out themselves. But I mean, certainly gives a team back an amazing defensive presence on the forward lines and leadership in Coots, and certainly with Drysdale, it gives him another opportunity to, just acclimate himself more, play good hockey. Probably went through a lot physically and mentally the last 10 days, for a little over a week, 10 days ago. So, the travel wore him down most likely, and he got sick. And so be an opportunity for him to kind of refresh a little bit and get ready to dig into this 4-game homestand. It's perfect setup. The Flyers have had 2 days off in a row. And I think that's a really, really good excuse to be fully prepared to play the Dallas Stars here tonight.
So Flyers are coming in this one off 4 wins in a row, swept that road trip. You got to imagine their confidence is pretty high. I'm just curious what it's like in a locker room when your confidence is up. You want your confidence to be high, but you don't want it so high, right, that they start not paying attention to details. There's a balance there, isn't there? Yeah. You have to maintain.
There is, and let's not let's not fool ourselves. The Flyers need to be better at home than they've been. And this has been, if there's one thing that's been a sticking point to the team this year, it's been their home ice. Don't forget last week in the midst of the Drysdale night, which was a crazy night in and of itself last Monday, there was a hockey game actually played that night. And the Flyers, for the most part,
have no recollection of it.
That is not true, Bundy.
They lost 4-1 to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and they ended up getting their stuff together at the end of the week and dug out of a 2-0 hole against somebody late in the thing. But at the same time, they're going to have to be better here at the Wells Fargo Center than they've been. And the way they're playing, the way they came off that homestand, I think everybody's thinking, hey, this is going to be great. We're just going to come in and get some home cooking now. It's never as easy as you think. It never is, because everybody in human nature, again, takes for granted what sometimes is easy or looks comfortable. And the reason the Flyers have performed so well on the road is because they've been adept to playing in uncomfortable situations and moments where their back's been up against the wall, and they've really adhered to taking those difficult positions on. That's them against everybody else. Remember, this isn't supposed to be an anybody team. It could have been anywhere people thought from 12th down to the bottom of the conference in the East. That's not happened. They've answered the bell. The coaching's been terrific. The goaltending's been outstanding. And so this is an opportunity for where I'm talking about right now in the season. If you are a really good playoff team, you find a way to get 6 or 7 points out of this 8 coming up on this homestand. And I'm not being realistic. Would I say win all 4, get 8 points? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you have a team coming in here tonight in Dallas. You've got a home game. Who is it on Saturday? Colorado. So you got 2 Western Conference teams, right? And then you got an opportunity right now. Go for it with these 4 points because they're in the West. Keep your mojo going that you had on the trip. Keep building it here at home, but don't think it's going to be easier. And then you got Ottawa, who's, they're a disaster. And then Tampa Bay, who's trying to find their footing, and they haven't been able to do it all year. This is the homestand, I think, that will make or break and determine what the Flyers, if they're going to be a good playoff team or if they're going to be battling it out at the end of the year. This is the most important 4 games to me so far in the year, and it may be even beyond that. This is going to tell a lot in these 4 games.
Yeah, and how they finish up into that All-Star break coming up at the end of the month. Mm-hmm. This is one of those, great point, but it's one of those really key segments of time right now. Let's take our first break.
In case anybody's counting.
Is that what it is? Okay. Well, you had 2 days off between games, which was nice.
I know that, but I've got 8 games in the next 10 days now.
How do you wind up with
the
that?
Flyers, the Wings, and the alumni game, so it's going to be a rush here.
Try suiting up for it.
Yeah, you have about the same situation.
Not exactly the same wear and tear.
I went and got a little skate in the other day, though, and it actually, I know of one. I'm going to try to get one more, but I know that I will feel 100 times better having had a couple skates and just going in blind that night with, not having skated in over a year.
Oh, man. Well, you looked good in your selfie that you took on the bench there, your little video.
That's right, pal.
You didn't look like you hadn't skated in a while. Let's take our first time out. We'll come back with more Flyers Dallas Stars coming up at the top of the hour. We're back after this on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network.
It's the Fanatic Flyers pregame show.
Pregame concert from the Jonas Brothers.
Don't miss the 2024 NHL Stadium Series
It's
in
the white
New
Nuble,
Jersey.
Buy tickets now at NHL.com/Stadium Series tickets.
This is the Fanatic Flyers pregame show on 97.5 The Fanatic.
It is the Flyers and Dallas Stars opening up a 4-game homestand here at Wells Fargo Center. Jason Martinez, Chris Terry, and Brian Smith as we get you set for this game tonight. Bunny, you mentioned something there about the 2 days off and, getting things done at home. Sometimes teams try and put on a show at home and just play a meat and potatoes game on the road. When you play, did you feel like, is there an added pressure to try and entertain the home fans more than obviously when you're on the road?
Well, I know the one thing at home is you want to build energy for your fans, right? You don't want to have a boring game where you come out and there's no forechecking and there's no animosity directed towards the opposition. So I think from that standpoint, I think it's great, but at the same time, yeah, you can take advantage of playing at home, thinking it's going to be easier. The problem with home is there's so many distractions. Your family, getting tickets, kids, getting kids to school, getting them after, feeling like you're part of it, but also doing the things that you need to do as a pro athlete. So I think from that standpoint, as pros, you want to be able to know that, but at the same time, it's experiencing and living it are two totally different things. Make no mistake, this Flyers team has been much better on the road this year. And I think a lot of the reason for that is because they just go play. They just go play. And, again, like Winnipeg, you're thinking to yourself, I don't know what kind of team they're going to have here tonight. What's going to show up? They just played a super duper road game. And that's what you come to expect a little bit from them. But again, they need to figure out a way to turn. You can play road hockey at home. That's always what guys say on the road. Play like you're playing on the road at home. But again, that comes with a little bit more initiation of contact and taking the play to other teams. On the road, sometimes you can find yourself kind of weaning into games and trying to understand the opposition early, and then you find a groove. At home, there's no excuse for it. Guys always want you to come out with a lot of energy, determination, and physicality.
I was thinking about when you mentioned earlier the Pittsburgh game and that being a matter of playing better at home, but after that game, that was the one thing that kind of worried me all of a sudden about Pittsburgh was that Mike Sullivan knows John Tortorella so well that I began to wonder if that had a factor, because it's been a while since I've seen a team kind of be able to disable the Flyers the way Pittsburgh did, and I'm just wondering what goes into that sort of thing when you have somebody on the other side that well, whether it's a goaltender, whether it's a head coach. Does that ever enter into the results of a game, or is it more just it's just another player or another coach over there?
Well, I think that there's actually a lot that goes into that when you think about your coach having a familiarity with somebody else. I think it does help.
Institutional knowledge, right?
Yeah, but I think at the same time, going back on these games this year, the Flyers have caught a lot of teams with their pants down, and they really have. Not ill-prepared for them, not prepared for the work that the Flyers put in, how disruptive they are to other teams during the course of games. The Flyers are not a loaded skill team like you're going to see maybe with Dallas or Colorado or Vegas. But what's made them successful is their ability to work and to not quit. And every team has different makeups of the year. There's teams that will win the Stanley Cup, like Tampa, with a ton of skill and a great goaltender, right? That was a heavy-duty skill team. Same with Colorado, that ended up stripping Tampa of the 2 cups in a row before they won it. The Flyers are not that team. They're not at all. What they have right now is a ton of synchronicity together. They're really gelled well together. And the formula that they put out every single night seems to work. But again, when you have teams that are willing to match the Flyers or outwork them, which doesn't happen very often, they're more than likely going to have success. And going back to that Pittsburgh game last Monday, I thought Pittsburgh, even their skill players, decided to work harder than the Flyers players that night. And if that happens, the Flyers are going to be on more ends of the negative side of the score than they are on the positive. But that's not happened. That's why I'm saying right now, this feels like the first time that there are teams that are going to finally start paying attention to this hockey team. And I really feel like this is why this is just so huge right now, this moment in time, and why this 4-game homestand is, to me, the beginning of the rest of the season, because the Flyers are in a good spot. It's a lot easier staying in that top 8 than it is getting into that top 8. So that's why, I tell them, if I were the coach, be ready every single night. because teams are not going to start taking you lightly anymore.
Yeah, think about over the previous 3 seasons, how many times they got the backup goaltender because it was advantageous for the opposition to rest their number one. Going tonight for the Flyers in net will be Sam Ersson, Bundy, and we know how good he's been since those first 3 games. I broke down the numbers on today's Flyers Daily. .930 save percentage, lowest in the NHL, 187 goals against average, 3 goose eggs. And this ability that the Flyers have to play both guys and get real quality goaltending will maybe pay dividends in this second half because it won't wear either of the guys down.
I'll tell you what, though, I mean, it's great having 2 of them, but if I'm the coach, I'm picking one before the playoffs start.
You better. I agree.
I mean, like, you can sit here and it's all beautiful in January. We get 2 goalies playing together, but there's going to come a time where it's going to come down to the crunch of it, and someone's going to have to pick a goalie, and the other one's going to be ticked off. And that, unfortunately, is the way it goes. That's a luxury to have right now.
Especially in today's league, right?
Of course. I mean, dude, there's some teams that don't have a goalie that can even play. I mean, that's your every shot that hits the net, you're praying every time. So I think that the Flyers really do have a luxury. I find it interesting that it's Ursan starting tonight in the pipes. That's you're coming back. Carter Hart got the win the other night, and they're going to come back. So maybe they're just going to go every other game for a little bit. Who knows?
We sat down and broke it down, and that gives Carter Boston the day after the alumni game. I think it's kind of the way I don't know. We'll see how it
project it out.
But to your point a moment ago with the teams starting to pay attention to the Flyers, the one thing they haven't done is they have not played the top teams in the Atlantic yet, and that's going to end here soon. They've got Tampa at the back of this homestand, then they got Boston, and then after the All-Star break, Florida. Finally, they'll get to them. And then, Toronto comes in mid-February. They go to Toronto in mid-February. So they're going to start getting their first look at some of these teams that are, good, but on their side of the ledger. And, those teams are going to see the Flyers for the first time not being taken by surprise after the season they've had to this point.
How can you?
Yeah.
I mean, it would be a complete disrespect by any team to take this Flyers team lightly. They are to be reckoned with, and the one thing they're going to give you is a good, solid, honest effort. Yeah. You're not going to be able to walk into Philadelphia or take the Flyers if you're playing them at home and just say, we're going to just show up.
Right.
And we're going to have results. That's not going to happen. This coaching staff, Torts, has done a good enough job this year that he's had these guys prepared every single game. And in every team that he's coached in the history of his coaching career, he's had a year where a team has been absolutely unbelievable, no matter what the skill set is or the group chemistry or talent level is. And if I'm the Flyers, may as well take full advantage of it, because you know what? Who the hell knows what can happen now? Right. The way the schedule is, the way the games are. Yeah. I mean, you go on a run. I mean, if you're on a run like this, you can do some dangerous things in the spring.
Well, I'd love to get Toronto right now because they are.
Well, they're a mess. You can't win with 4 guys on your team. I mean,
you're paying all those guys all that money. Nylander money going to kick in next year.
Yeah,
it's insane, and no back end or goaltending. Let's take our last time out. We'll get you ready for Flyer starters. We'll tell you the line combinations as the Flyers will go 11-7 again. Delarier, Brink, and Stahl out. Drysdale and Couturier back in. Back after this on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network.
The Fanatic Flyers pregame show.
set to take on the Dallas Stars. Drop the puck on a 4-game homestand, really pivotal segment of the schedule. It will be Sam Ersson tonight versus Jake Ottinger. He's been a horse for this Dallas team, Bundy, and one of the top goaltenders in the league. He's got a 905 save percentage, a little down on his career numbers this year. And Dallas is a team that is giving up 3 goals a game, a little more than we've seen of late. But Ottinger's one of those guys, big goaltender, 6'5".
Yeah.
You got to put a lot of traffic around him because if he sees it, he's essentially going to stop it.
You have to disrupt the crease, and that's the way that you beat a big goalie. It's like Vasilevsky in a lot of ways. So that's the way you're going to have success against him, is to challenge him in the crease. He's a guy that'll make the first stop. Does give up some rebounds, he's a very, very good goaltender. Big, he's athletic. He makes like primary stops, but the only way to beat him is traffic, getting shots through and traffic. And the Flyers, for where they're at, they've done a great job of that. I mean, that's one thing they've done a good job of, getting some of the pucks through some of that traffic. And I think that's been really, really one of the good things that this Flyers team has done, especially their defensemen. I mean, the Flyers defensemen have done an excellent job doing some really good stuff.
And to that end, the way they've been able to spring the transition as well has been huge for this team because, I feel like you got a couple of guys, specifically Sanheim and Zamula, who really didn't do that last year. Zamula was still green, and Sanheim, was just not really the player he is this year, and that has been a huge thing as well because that seems to be where the Flyers are most dangerous, is in transition when you don't have necessarily a ton of scoring skill to set up and just do whatever you want. You're trying to catch the other team off guard, and those guys have really helped with that.
Big time. Yeah, big time. And Zamula especially is a guy that really gets his shots through. And it's a real knack and almost an art sometimes. It's harder to do than you think, believe me. And It's finding just that little angle of how you release your shot, where it's directed to, the direction to the net. Is it go off the boards and come out front? But he's been the best Flyer at doing that, Zamula. And because he's another guy very quietly is taking a nice step forward.
I feel like, and I asked him this the other night after the game, I asked Torts about this. I feel like every time I've watched him in the last week, he's been noticeably better, not just a little better. Like it seems like since the first of the year, he's just exponentially been climbing the ladder. I'm not sure what it is.
Just experience, getting put in the right situation. That's another thing that they've done a good job of, really, the coaching staff. Brad Shaw, one of them, is making sure guys are put in situations where they're going to succeed. And early in the year, they put Sanheim and York in that spot, top pair. And I think they did a great job. Yeah. I really do. They've really responded well. I know ideally in a season coming in like this, you're not going to put York in a top pair a minute, thinking that you're going to be a playoff team. And certainly, they've found some chemistry between the two. And it's been good stuff.
Can you believe Joe Pavelski's still playing, Bundy? He was in that 0-3 draft in the 7th round. He's still playing. He's third on this team in points. He's got, I think, 12 power play goals. I mean,
you know what, Jace? I watched a lot of games and some nights, and like I said, if Crosby wants to play till he's 50, he will still have. If he wants to, he can.
Yeah.
I mean,
could you have played at 39?
Easily, if I
don't mean
no question. If I kept skating, I didn't take care of myself. I'm not going to get into it, but but I'm saying is if you take care of yourself and you focus on doing it. If I would have someone said you want to play to your 45, I probably could have. I'm not kidding you.
In today's game, Bundy, more so.
100%. I mean, if you want to play now and you don't want to retire, you keep playing. There's jobs everywhere. There's too many jobs. They're going to add 45 more of them. So,
but the fact that you had to stop playing for a year.
Yeah,
and try to come back in at whatever age you were at.
Yeah, I was 34.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough time to do that, right?
Yeah, I did. I didn't, for terms of old now, I would have been a dinosaur now. That's why Pavelski's like a super dinosaur.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that's, but again, you'll have that chance. If guys want to play, they will. I believe that. But this should be a great game tonight. Like, I'm looking for, the first game in Dallas was great. And this should be no less than another really excellent, well-played hockey. I'm expecting it tonight.
Yeah, back on October 21st, Flyers overcame 2 2-goal deficits in that game. To get it to overtime, they ultimately lost in the extra session against Dallas. But here's the lineup for tonight. Couturier draws back in. He'll center between Owen Tippett and Travis Konechny. Lawton centers between Forster and Hathaway. Frost, Farabee, and Atkinson. And then the 2 other forwards, Noah Cates and Ryan Poehling. We'll see how Cates' usage kind of picks up here with him getting back in the lineup in the last game. Sanheim and Drysdale, Sealer and Walker. Then it's Ristolainen along with the combination of looks like York and Zamula. So York looks like he's been moved down here. And I guess that's
I think
really
that
the most
happened on
likely
the trip.
spot. Yeah, I mean,
I think that happened on the trip.
I don't know how you piece it together.
Who did they have Sanheim with again, Jason? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Drysdale.
Okay, yeah.
That actually, I guess that probably started when Drysdale got here. I think I've seen that 8-9 together. A little bit more than 6-9, but it's rotated a little bit, I think.
Now I know why Yorkie hates it. He's in that left side, two guys for the third pairing situation along with Zamula. It's just less than ideal. For players, I imagine for the UD guys, Bundy, that is a nightmare. But it is Ayerson versus Ottinger as well against not your old Dallas Stars with Jamie Benn and Tyler Sagan leading the way. A lot of new guys getting it done. Robertson and Hintz for this team. So the Flyers and the Stars here tonight to open up a 4-game homestand that begins tonight. Stay tuned. Tim Saunders, Todd Fedoruk, they've got the countdown to face off, and that's followed by all the first period action between the Flyers and the Stars. You've been listening to Flyers Game Day on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network.